One of my daughters said to me, "You don't care that dad is gone?" And I was like, "Excuse me?" But so what I realized is I was trying to.
Hello, this is Kevin Matthews with another episode of Second Chance Superstars. This is the place that we talk to people that have overcome major things in their lives. As you know, I make no bones about being a person that's been addicted to drugs. I'm in my 33rd year clean and sober. We've had people that have come home from prison and overcome that to become millionaires. We've got people that have overcome divorce. We had one of our guests that came here from another country, from Russia, and had to learn a new language and come and learn a new culture. But today, we have a guest that I have had the privilege to get to know. I've worked on her board for a while. Her name is well known. Her husband's name is well known. Their last name is well known. As a matter of fact, we were in a building right next to a business with their name on it. That name, and they even have a highway named after them. That name is Tisdale. Today, you're going to get the privilege to hear from Regina Tisdale, a person that grew up here in Tulsa, a person that you play basketball yourself?
I did.
Played basketball herself, fell in love with another great basketball player that became famous. And he was a musician. His name was Wayman Tisdale, one of the most wonderful people that grew up in Tulsa, that's made a huge difference across the nation. And we're here to talk to her about their life together and then how you overcome losing someone so special. And so, without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you, and we're going to have a conversation with Regina Tisdale. Hello, Regina. How are you today?
I'm well. How about you?
I'm doing well. I'm really doing well. I'm so excited about this project because not only does our audience get to hear from people they don't normally get to be up and close with, but I get that privilege. And I take an opportunity to go to breakfast or lunch with my guests before they come on. And although I've been around you, I hadn't had private conversations with you, but I just want to tell you what a joy it is to have gotten to know you. And you really are an example of someone that's gone through a major tragedy. Mm-hmm. There's two things that are very, very, very tough to get over. Two or three things, losing a parent that you're close to. And then you see so many people that have been married for a long time, had a wonderful relationship, and when one is gone, often people don't even get over it, let alone bounce back like you have. And then, of course, something we never want to do is to lose a child.
Right.
And so let's just start with who you are and, where you came from. A lot of people we see you as famous. Did you grow up in California? Did you grow up in Atlanta? Did you grow up in Hollywood? Tell me who Regina Tisdale is.
Regina Tisdale is one of 7 children, the fifth one of 7. I am a Tulsa native. I grew up here, went to John Burroughs, Marion Anderson, and then Will Rogers, and then stayed in Oklahoma for college as well. But yeah, I'm a Tulsa girl, native girl, and I call myself I had this T-shirt made that says "Dope Black Cowgirl" because I am a country girl too at heart.
Wow.
The horses, the throwing hay, chickens with fresh eggs. But I'm a mother of 4, grandmother of 9. Look, mother, sister, cousin, aunt, grandma, Gigi. I feel like I'm too old. Young to be called grandma, so I'm Gigi.
Well, you mean to tell me Regina Tisdale is kind of a country girl? Is that right?
Absolutely. Well, I was on my what was it? My mower, last week, and I have 19 acres over there. And I get out and I'm on the zero turn, and my son-in-law is on the trimmer, and somebody's on the weed eater, and yeah, I'm a country girl. I done toss bales of hay and gathered eggs out of my chicken coop, and I have a vegetable garden most every year. This year I'm not, because I'm, preparing to downsize. So this is the second year actually, that I did not grow my own vegetables and or can or make jelly or preserves or whatever it is I want to do.
Well, that's so interesting. That's one of the things that we have in common. A lot of people didn't know how I got along with those rural firefighters that I worked with for so many years, and because I was always I call myself a country boy living in the city,
Me too.
and a brother then from the hood trying to do good. And so I think that we have that in common. But now that we got that out of the way, tell me, how did you meet Wayman? How did you and Wayman Tisdale meet?
I met Wayman at his dad's church. He, baby sister, wanted to go to church one Sunday evening, and her little neighbor friend, when you're 16, it's like you're excited. Oh, I have a driver's license. But then your mom, you become I call it a glorified chauffeur, and run to the store, get some bread, So my baby sister wanted to go to church, and I was like, you know what, I could drop her off, I could just stay. And I'm 16 years old, so I decided to get dressed and stay, and never knowing whose church I was going to, except that Renee Jones from across the street invited my little sister Angie, so Regina had to drive. And it was my father-in-law's church. It was Friendship, the smaller one before he built the larger one. And I remember just getting in and sitting kind of in the back of the church, and I grew up going to church at Vernon because that's where my grandmother went, because my mom worked on Sundays. And when I got in, I was like, oh, this music. Wait, they have a bass player? They have Methodist, you don't have all those instruments. So I'm 16 and really into the music scene, of course, because I feel like the 70s and 80s bands were the real music. And so I love music. So when I get in a church and they're grooving. And so at some point I turned and I did a kind of double take, and I was like, man, that dude is tall. I remember thinking that he's playing the bass. And I go back, and I was really impressed with the choir, because I'd never seen, again, it's hymnals at a Methodist church. No knock against the Methodists, but that's just what it was. So, but at 16, and we're in the music and cars and, typical teenage stuff. So when I saw him, we were doing this cat and mouse thing. When he'd look, I'd look away, and then, you could feel somebody looking at you. But finally, as the service progressed, I tapped somebody to get my baby sister, because it's Sunday night. We had school the next day. So I was like, hey, we need to go. And we're walking out. We're walking down to the car, and I hear somebody like, hey. And I'm like, when I turned around, it was him. So he said, hold up for a second. Then I slowed down. He walked, and he's like, how you doing? I was like, I'm good. Look, because I was like, wait, did you just leave your post playing the guitar? And he didn't follow. He didn't come out the front door, so he came out some other door. But at any rate, he followed me out and asked me my name, told me who he was, and this was our joke for years. And he's like, oh, you probably know who I am. I'm Wayman Tisdale. And I was like, no, I don't, because I was at Rogers, and we didn't play Booker T back then, so I didn't know who he was. And so I remember there was a joke we had for the longest. Oh, and William happened. His brother William was standing right there, and William laughed and hoorah'd him for the longest, because you thought she just knew who you were. Well, I was like, well, I didn't. But at any rate, he asked me for my phone number, and I was thinking now, and I told my daughters, don't do what I did. I said, that man asked me for my phone number, and I gave it to him. But I remember him saying, I'm going to call you tonight. If I don't, it's because I have homework, and I'll call you tomorrow after basketball practice. So I was thinking, okay. Well, he was tall, but I didn't know. And, of course, when my dad, when he came, we were the kind of folk that if you came to take somebody's daughter on a date, you came in, you met the father, you did the whole thing. But my dad was just going on and on. And I was like, I just said, what, Daddy? But my father was a man that read the paper from cover to cover, in sports in particular. He watched everything that was sports, golf, tennis, hockey. My dad he loved sports. So anyway, that's how we met. He followed me out, and he didn't call that day, and he did call the next day after practice, and literally that's where we started.
Well, now, that's why I love doing these things, because I'm finding out we have something else in common. You went to Vernon AME, and I went to St. John AME. I went to St. John AME under B.S. Roberts, our first black city councilor. And Vernon AME is the church of our first black state representative. And so Ben Hill.
Yeah.
And so
I remember Mrs. Hill.
I grew up in the AME church with the hymnals and all of that, just like you did.
Yeah.
And my classmate was Weldon Tisdale, Wayman's oldest brother, and then William. They played basketball while I was on the wrestling team. The people don't know Weldon was the shortest, but he could dunk with either hand, left or right, and went on to Yale.
Wayman would tell me that.
So it's really funny. That's why we have these interviews, to learn. So what was it like as you went on, you met, you said around 16 years old, and she met him at church.
Yeah.
Met him at church.
So ladies, go to church.
And so now, what was it like to eventually be married to a person that was a NBA basketball star and a famous musician? What was that like?
Crazy sometimes, but you know what Wayman was so good at, because of course we've all heard it in any genre, from music to sports, even ministers. There's what they call groupies, and so women are everywhere. And but we established something very early on, and Wayman's thing. Everywhere we went, this is my wife, Regina, and so he just put it out there, and so we, it didn't mean that all of the women would try to stop, but he did do what I thought was respectful to me, is like let it be known, like, hey, I'm married, but the only. My husband afforded me and my children a beautiful, beautiful life. But the downside, I guess, if you want to call it, of what people don't realize is that you're almost not your own person, or you have to watch everything that you do, everything that you say, because folks are always looking. Wow. Eyes are always, if it's not, the paparazzi kind of thing, so you're on your P's and Q's constantly. And I'll be honest, my children did not like that. They're like, this isn't fair. Why do we have to? And I was like, because baby, it's what it is. I don't know what else to tell you guys, And so literally, you go on trips, get out the country, go to an island, and then that's when you could kind of relax and just, and be you.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're always on stage when you're with a famous person.
On stage. Always.
Well, Wayman was known not just for his talents, but his spirit and that great smile.
Yeah.
I told you about me being in the airport in Utah, and Wayman wasn't my age, didn't have a lot of interaction with me, but he knew who I was, and I saw him across the airport. He was with the basketball team, and he walked all the way across that airport like I was famous. It floored me. And so beyond that smile, why did so many people love him?
Because, it's just like you said, the very thing that he did with you. If you were in a conversation with Wayman, you would swear that he's known you forever. He's going to give you his undivided attention. He's looking in your face when he's talking to you. He would give his phone number to anybody, and I said, well, babe, what? And he's like, well, it's okay if they call, and so he didn't have what I jokingly call a bat phone, the main phone, and then this phone. And for a matter of fact, when he passed away, my son wanted to keep the phone number, so I gave the phone to Wayman the second. We call him Bubba, and he said, "My daddy has over 1,500 contacts." And I said, "Well, I believe it." And so he's scrolling through. He's like, Michael Jordan, Toby Keith, Malcolm Jamal Warner. I mean,
Wow.
we would just go because Malcolm played bass, and so when we lived in Calabasas, he would come and record with Wayman. So I needless to say, just a few days ago, I was heartbroken. But yeah, what am I going to say? When you say, when I first met him, that's what got me too. When he turned and we were doing this cat mouse thing, that smile was absolutely amazing. And I mean, and it would pull anybody in. But he just made you feel like when he's having a conversation with you, that you're the most important person there. And my daughter, one of the girls is a caterer, and she was doing something in Norman. And she said, "Mom, this guy told me this story about Dad," and because we go places and hear all types of stories. But she said he was a freshman at OU, and Wayman was, and he said, "I really didn't get to play," and I can't even remember his name. But she said, "Mom, Coach Tubbs came in and said everybody, skins and shirts. So and if you're a freshman, you have to wear the red or whatever." And Tiffany said, "Mom, when this man was telling me the story, he teared up because he said, Wayman went, I'm going to sit here, do what the freshman does." And he said, Coach Tubbs was like, "No, Wayman, not you." And so he's like, "Yeah, I'm doing it because I'm a freshman, just like these guys." And so, but Tiffany said, "Mom, when the guy was telling me the stories, he was just, he's like, your dad's humility." And he said, she said, "Mom, he had tears in his eyes." And so she said, "Before I knew it, I was welling up too, because that was just him. He was going to make you feel very, very welcome. He did not meet a stranger. And sometimes in business ventures, I would do like this, baby, this guy, listen to what he's saying." But Wayman I think in his heart, he just wanted to believe that everybody was who they said they were. And he wanted to believe that everybody was kind because he was. So he felt like, but at first, he's going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and he's going, if you say you're this, that, and the third, he's going to go with it until we found out it was different. But yeah.
Well, as of this taping, we're just a couple of days away from losing Malcolm Jamal Warner, and you just gave me some information. Beyond him being an actor and an activist, you're saying he was also a musician. So
he played bass.
He played what?
Bass.
Just like Wayman?
He did, and I think that's probably how they initially met. But when we were in Calabasas, he would come to the house and record, and then I was in somewhere in Cali after Wayman passed, but he was so gracious, and he's like, "I'm so sorry. Like, I really loved Wayman," and so when my daughter called me Sunday, Monday, I was like, "Oh my God!" And she said, "Mom, I remember him coming and being in the studio with Daddy." I said, "Yeah," but he too was that type of guy,
Well, I said I was on your board. I was on the Wayman Tisdale Foundation that helped get prostheses for other individuals. There's a highway, Tisdale Expressway here. And Wayman's known for many things, but what part of his legacy do you hope that the world never, ever forgets about Wayman?
The philanthropic person that he was. Wayman had his heart was huge. And a lot of times I jokingly say big as Texas because we know how big and wide Texas is. And the Tisdales, of course, are originally from Fort Worth, and they, my father-in-law came here to pastor a church, and so when I think Wayman had to be 3 or 4 when they moved. So everybody just considers him an Okie, and and for all intents and purposes, he is, and that's, he would tell you that. Okay.
What part of his legacy would you want people to never forget about him?
How kind he was, and how he was such a giver. He was an incredible father, To me, I'm probably biased, but for my children, what I think his legacy has done, and what we've tried to instill in them, is their ability, to give back, and so Wayman was really into that, and that's why when you said you're on our board, when we went through our situation and he became an amputee, he realized how expensive it was and how many people weren't able to afford it, or their insurance didn't cover it. But these were otherwise healthy people that potentially would be in a wheelchair if it was, a leg, but depending on where the limb was. But some of these people just wanted to get back up and have a normal life because outside of their insurance not covering it or not just being able to afford it, they were healthy people after whatever because there were farm accidents from some recipients. Some person fell off a porch, which is really bizarre because I would interview everybody, or I want, just like you said, what you do prior to bringing someone here, I want to sit down and just hear their stories. So I would sit down and meet everybody that we chose. After the board, we collectively chose a person, I would sit down with them.
Wow. Well, we just wanted the audience to know about Wayman, but really, we're here about you. And so we've laid the foundation about the wonderful man that you lost in Wayman. Mm-hmm. And so now we want to talk about, this show is about how you overcome major things. And it seems like you found out that Wayman was diagnosed with cancer. Mm-hmm. And so as his mate, as his wife, how did you both approach it emotionally and spiritually with this diagnosis and knowing something like this was on the horizon?
I mean, being honest, initially I was devastated. My father had only been gone 6 months from cancer when Wayman was diagnosed. And so I never properly grieved my dad because I didn't have a chance to. I had to get in this caretaker mode, which I did. But we are people of faith, and we together prayed, and then sometimes we would have times when you just fall apart because chemo is tough. Chemo beats the crap out of you, and one of the things that was very hard for me is to watch this big, strong man that's my protector and protector of my children, and to see the way that thing will ravage your body, And then, and because my thought was, this is a big, huge, all I've ever known is this big, strong man because, he was an athlete. It was part of his, he had to be healthy and strong. And Wayman, of course, he never drank. He could take a social drinking. But the funny thing is, as big as he was, he could not tolerate much liquor. So we would have some really funny times when he would drink. But for the most part, he super, super strong, healthy guy. Went out to play. We were in Calabasas. Went out to do some time with my son on the court because my son played at Calabasas High School, and came back. And initially, it took him 8 weeks to give us a definitive, this is what's happening. Because initially they said something about a cyst, but because he was just simply walking down the steps and the bone broke. And when we initially went to the hospital, they thought, they told me it was a cyst. And then I had just had some medical procedure like a day before. And so I'm in the hospital, really not feeling really well, in the emergency room with him. And he finally just told me, he said, babe, just go home. And I said, well, no. He said, no, the doctors, they said they're going to set it tonight. In the morning, I'm going in surgery. They're going to, set the bone and, you just come in the morning for surgery. But when I got to the hospital, he was very, very quiet. And then I noticed, I was like, why haven't they prepped you for surgery yet? And he's like, "There's not going to be a surgery." I said, "It's not going to be a surgery." I said, "Why?" And he said, "Gene, he said, I'm ready to go home." And I was like, "What? Well, okay, wait, what's happening, Wayman?" And he turned his head in the bed toward the window, like he turned away from me. And so I was like, "Okay, so we're not doing this. You have to tell me what's happening." And I walked around the bed to look at him. He's like, "I'm ready to go home. I want to go." And so I'm sitting there with honestly, Kevin, I didn't know what was happening, except that they're not doing the surgery and he's ready to go home. And I said, "Oh, okay." And the doctor came in and with the release paper, he's giving me all these papers to take this and go to this doctor and that doctor. And so when I'm looking down, I recognize, and I was like, "Oncologist for what?" Because remember 6 months ago, so I'd gone through a 2-year deal with Dad, and then 6 months later, and I remember initially, because you said, how did we handle it spiritually and or mentally? But initially, I remember as I was pushing the wheelchair out to get to the car, I just remember thinking, literally, I said, okay, I literally said this to God, okay, at any point, somebody can say to me, "Psych, we're just joking." But of course, that did not come. So we're driving home pretty much in silence because he's not talking. I'm wondering what's going on. And then finally, I said, "Listen, before the kids come home from school, we need to talk." Because I said, because I don't know what's going on, Wayman. And initially, he just, and that was so hard for me because that was so unlike him. I always followed his lead on if I was the one that would get amped up over things, like, "Baby, it's good, don't worry about it." And I literally was just like, "Okay." He said, it's cool. And, but he wasn't saying anything that day. And so, speaking of your classmate, Weldon, I called him. He and his wife, they were there the next day. They were in, because I was like, "Look, I'm not sure what's happening. This is your little brother. I need some help." And they were there. In Calabasas, like I said, the very next day. So, honestly, initially, it was very tough because I'm on the heels of my dad, and I watched the things that went on with my father. But we were literally 8 weeks of doing tests, inconclusive. This is inconclusive. We were at Cedar Sinai. So we're at the best hospital in Cali, and just initially, no, I don't think we did. Neither one of us did very well with it. And it's not until I think you get to talk to doctors, and then once they have a diagnosis, then they could tell you what it looks like. But prior to that, you're just kind of flying in the wind, So emotionally, you are all over the place. So and the other part with us being people of faith, I was like, "Okay, God, it's going to be okay." So you're telling yourself that one minute, and the next minute, fear comes in and concern, and which is, I think, just natural,
Wow, that's really tough. And so, as we went on, we know you ended up losing your husband, and that had to be just one of the most devastating things ever. You just lost your father, and now losing your husband. I know some people don't survive it.
No, yeah.
Some people don't want to go on.
Right.
And so, what did you do to stay strong enough to get to the other side? What was that like?
It was, I almost said trial and error. It was 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, literally. I'm up, I'm back, but I have 4 children, and my son was 18, my baby girl was 14, and so I put on a brave face for them initially because I thought I needed to. And then one of my daughters said to me, do you not just care? You don't care that Dad is gone? And I was like, excuse me? But so what I realized is I was trying to hide or protect them. And so with me hiding, so to speak, they thought it wasn't bother, not that it wasn't bothering me. I don't know which way my daughter put it, but I found at that point I told her, I said, what you don't see is me every morning in the shower crying my eyes out. And I said, and I didn't want you guys to say, because I thought I had to be strong for you guys. And but it was interpreted to them that Mom is really cool. And I was like, Mom is, tore up on the inside. But I just thought, just me being their mother and then his wife, I was a fixer. So, Mom, I forgot this. Mom, I got basketball practice and this. I have volleyball practice and I left it. So, and I'm just being Mom because I was able to be a stay-at-home mother. So that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And I thought I was supposed to, I didn't let them see me often when I would really crash and burn. But then I started having some not so good habits that were detrimental for me. And one day I just said, okay, so you're gonna keep drinking because you wanna be numb, and you're gonna drink and mix that with the anti-anxiety medicine so that I could just crash out. So when I would do that, because then I didn't have to feel it. And I think one day I just said, you know what? You're not gonna die. God left you here for something. And what you have to do is get yourself together, Regina. Like literally, I talked to myself, you have to get yourself together. You have this baby in high school and she's struggling because she doesn't know what to do with the emotion. I'm 45. I didn't necessarily know, but she's 14. So I need to try to support her as much as I can because it kind of really took her off the rails. Didn't kind of. She was all the way off. So I had to get myself together for Gabrielle and the other babies as well, but the baby girl at home. And I just told God, like, you know what? We have to do this day for day. And so I literally would get up and say, okay, God, today, help me today. And then I did that. And I remember thinking, okay, we're coming up on the year. And when the year comes, I'm going to be cool. There's no timeline on that stuff. Because I was very much in love with my husband. You know, when I talked to my therapist, she said, Regina, you still love your husband. She said, I have some people that come in and they go to grief counseling and they're on their way because it just depends on the depth of the love. And someone told me recently, and it took he's been gone 16 years. So it's 16 years before I heard someone say, they were talking about grief, and they said, think about the level of your love. She said, so the amount of love that you have, that's how much grief you'll have. And I was like, wow. I never heard anybody say that in all the years of me looking through things, trying to read things, trying to self-help. And so I started working out. I had a girlfriend say, hey, come go to the Y with me. So we would go to Hutchinson every day. And then we would go to an evening class. So that helped me start sleeping again. Because you're tired, your body's tired. So for me, I've told so many people, man, if you have a good friend group, it matters so much. So between my friend group and my family, and this girlfriend get me to start working out, it took all of those things. And it wasn't like I jumped on it and I was there. It's this back forth thing until you start to try to get a handle on it. Kevin, I'm like, to even today, I can pass a man in a mall walking down the street, and I'll notice his cologne, and I'll say, excuse me, sir. I said, is that Creed? Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, it is. And I said, my husband wore that. And so our senses are made, songs will give you a gut punch. You've had so many memories with these people, and it's little, a song, something on the television, something, a smell, or we used to, Wayman love this, whatever, meaning food. And so there's triggers along the way, but at some point, I just said, for the sake of my children, and then the grandchildren started to come. that, and then I said, okay, God, you still have something for me to do. So that's what pulled me out of that, what I call the abyss, because grief can pull you in a hole that is so hard to come out of. And so now with therapy and my Christianity, I couple them together, because I know old school is like, oh, just pray, baby, just pray. I was like, okay, I'm gonna pray, but I'm gonna talk to this woman too, because I need to do everything that I can, to get through this. And I don't say over it, but through it.
Well, what I hear you say is that when the pain is so bad that you might even do harmful things to yourself,
Absolutely.
trying to numb the pain, and that you did that for a while. But what I also hear you say is that you had to find something to live for.
Absolutely.
And that was ultimately your children.
Absolutely.
And then now your grandchildren.
Right.
And then the third thing I thought I heard you say was to replace some of those other things that are unhealthy with healthy activities.
Absolutely.
So what would you say to a person, somebody in Malcolm Jamal Warner's family, his loved ones, or someone that's lost someone dear to them today? What would you say to them? What kind of words of comfort would you give someone going through this today?
Initially, folks will have to grieve. You have to, because if you try to avoid it, it's going to come back. And so you have to, in my opinion, I would say, you know what, go ahead and, I said it to a lot of people, cry, scream, fuss, curse, whatever, because you're going to want to, but you have to get that out. And then I also believe that tears are cleansing, so cry, but then get up. And another thing that I didn't say is, when I thought about how much Wayman loved life, he would be mad at me for sitting here moping. He would tell me, girl, I'm okay. You get yourself together and get to moving. I've said that I've taken that, and I've even said it to my children when sometimes some of the things I said, so do you think this will make Daddy happy? I said, since you're saying you're doing this because of him, if you're going to do it because of him, let's honor his memory and who he was. And who he was a person that loved life. And I said, and we're here. So we need to live.
Well, that rolls into my next question, because people that are watching with children that lose their father, how did you support your children through the loss of their father? That is a tough one.
It is very tough. And I will tell you that I failed sometimes because I feel like, 3 daughters, a son. They dated folks that I didn't necessarily want them to. But we also know when a young person, teenage, early college, they think they know everything. And so you sometimes, I just stood back. It's like, okay, I guess they're going to have to bump their heads, because sometimes we have to just let them learn. But it was very hard to navigate it, honestly. I mean, because they're grieving, and I don't want to, and what, and it's not. And the one thing I got from them so much is, it's not fair.
Wow.
They did not. And I said, you know what, life isn't. That's what I told. And I said, and you know what, and we're not exempt. I said, none of us, we're all dealing with this thing with Dad being gone. And no, we don't understand it. And no, we're not happy, but we're not exempt from trouble, because we're not, or grief. And sometimes they just look at me and just cry. And I was like, baby, listen, this is what it is, And although, when you are with somebody that big, strong, healthy, and then again, he literally was, like, for real, the head of the house. And I don't mean in a dogmatic way. My husband was sweet as pie, but he was Daddy, kind of had the final say. We would, of course, talk about things, because, again, super kind man. But it made it hard for all of us. So, but what I would try to do is just to encourage them to get back to living. I mean, because my Tiffany was at OU, and the next semester she took off because she just said, I can't concentrate. Cool. My son was to be going to this agricultural school, Cameron, it's somewhere near the city. He didn't leave initially. Tiffany went back. They all got back, and Gabrielle, since she was just going to Booker T that next year, she went on to college. I mean, did her 4 years and then went on to UCO. Danielle had already graduated OU, and but she was living in. She came home for a while. It was so I did I think my best, you know.
So how many children did you guys have?
We have 4.
And they were how many girls and how many boys?
3 girls, and Danielle's the oldest. It's Danielle, Tiffany, Wayman the second, and Gabrielle's the baby.
And one of them, like a famous chef or something like that. Can you tell us a little bit about that business?
Tiffany, yeah. She has Tisdale 23 Catering. And I'm not saying it because it's my child, but that girl can cook. I mean, that she...
and 23, that was Wayman's number?
Yes. So if you look at any of our businesses, our email addresses, now even the grandchildren, everybody has 23 in something, the number 23. Every last one of us, all of us.
So as we start to wrap this up, we got just a few more minutes. Mm-hmm. Regina, what have you learned about yourself through this journey of loss and rebuilding?
You know what? One of the things I've learned, honestly, is to be kind to myself. Because I just like I said, over medicating or drinking, that was not me being kind to myself. And then also that girl of 16 years ago, she's forever gone. Because I'm no longer a wife. It's no longer them. It's me, or it's she. It's not us anymore. And so, literally. When the scripture says that you marry and you become one, when I left that cemetery, I felt like I left part of me. And so the person that I was, I feel like now I'm a little more no nonsense. One of the not so good things is, I don't know, I automatically, for whatever reason, believe when someone tells me something that I question it hard. And I said, what happened to the trusting person? But I think when he was gone, I realized, now this is all on you, girl. So you better do the right thing, or make the right decision. And so I don't feel like I know I'm not that same the same person. And just because I'm not. Things changed in a major way, meaning, I guess the way that I always view myself. You know, if you've been in a relationship and then not, and you've done it for a long time, so would you say that when you step out of that, you take something different from you? Kevin comes out a little bit of different Kevin than the Kevin that was there initially.
Well, definitely. And this is the thing. I'm a numbers guy. Uh-huh. So when I pay attention to your story, mm-hmm. You were 16 when you met him. Mm-hmm. It's been 16 years. Mm-hmm. And then you talk about, when I listen to your story, I always try to put a picture in my mind as I'm learning. Mm-hmm. So I see this iceberg. And the point that we see above the water is mm-hmm. where you've grown. Mm-hmm. But all of that down below is all that you had before. And when you talk about that grief, everybody feels like, okay, well, she's over it. Well, there's a whole bunch from 16 years old to now that still has to come up. Mm-hmm. And so I just appreciate you letting us know about that thing. That really caught me. Is the depth mm-hmm. of the love that you have for a person, is the depth that you'll feel when you lose them. Because it's interesting how somebody, the next day they're on vacation, on to the next because they the love was about this much.
Right. Or they didn't get along. Or, I mean, it wasn't a loving marriage. Or maybe it was at some point, and then the love lost its luster. I guess I don't know. We were still as strong as we wanted to be, and thank God, and just grew. Because we grew up together. We were kids, So when you grow up with your partner. We made fun of each other. We laughed. We could laugh at each other. And I would even see someone that I said, "Oh, babe, look, isn't she really pretty?" And someone's like, yeah. I was like, man, I wasn't worried about that woman. I thought she was beautiful. So I told, look, and he was who I was with. So I was like, look how pretty she is. But I remember one girl saying, "You told your husband to look at her?" I was like, yeah, I wasn't worried about it.
You knew who he was with, and you knew he
Absolutely.
loved you. Well, this has been wonderful. I really, really learn a lot when I talk to you, Regina. That's the kind of relationships I like to have, is things that feed me. And this is certainly one that I hope doesn't end. But I want to ask you what everybody here is wondering. Now, today, 16 years later, where is Regina, and what are you doing next?
You know what? I just turned the reins of the foundation over to my daughter Tiffany and my son-in-law Brandon. So I'm relinquishing that. I am downsizing from that big, huge property. And right now, I just want to see what Regina looks like at 61.
Wow. Well,
I just want to see what that looks like, because I've all been, I was mommy, I was wife, I am Gigi, but I just want to see what it looks, because my daughter is the one that made me realize it, my oldest daughter, and she says, "Mom, do you realize for 30 years," she said, no, from 16 to, she said, "You've been taking care of somebody." She said, "What do you want to do?" She said the same. She asked me, and I love to travel. So for my 60th birthday, I went everywhere, and because traveling is something that I really like to do.
Well, I don't know if you want to share this. We like I said, previous to this, we had lunch, and I really admired one of the things that you said today that you're getting ready to do. You talked about having a peer group support. I don't know if it's private or if you want to share your group that you're going to be going with and you've been doing for years.
Yeah.
That's some of the healthy things that you've done. If you don't mind, do you mind sharing that?
No, my Wayman and our anniversary was August 1st, and I get with 13 of my NBA girlfriends, and from somebody's in Phoenix, somebody's in California, somebody's
Basketball wives?
Yes, but look, the difference is we were real basketball wives, and with our guys,
No drama.
no drama. I was just talking to somebody just a few days ago, and I said my husband would have been mortified. Not only my husband, but my mother, if I was on television flying across the table to grab a woman to fight, and I know, I know TV is sensationalism, but at the same time, like, what about you as a woman? Where's your dignity, sweetheart? And so no, we are not those basketball wives.
So it's 13 of you?
It's 13 of us. We've been friends for 30 plus years. And my one girlfriend, Gail, which is the godmother to my Tiffany, the chef, she was here, quite a few of them in here when Wayman passed. And that was one of the things Gail said, "You will not be alone on August 1st." And she did it that first time. And so we all and we do spas, we laugh, we catch up on what's happening with children. So of course, all of our children are adults now. And we have fun. It is fun.
So the anniversary is not just pain and memories. You celebrate one another.
Yeah.
All 13 of you have been doing that for 16 years?
Yeah. They decided that like I said, my girlfriend Gail said, you will not be alone.
How long do you go out for? One day?
No.
A weekend?
We do a long weekend. So 4 or 5 days, we're gone. Last year, we did Martha's Vineyard, and oh my gosh, that was amazing. And I remember really liking the movie Inkwell. And so when we were on that side, I said, oh my gosh. And then I just saw something off topic a little bit, but it was Ralph Lauren putting out this new line of clothes, and he based it on, oh gosh, I can't think of the area where the black people could buy,
Wakanda?
No, so it's Cape Cod, and then it's, but the part of Martha's Vineyard where there's all, with super wealthy African Americans, it reminded you of what Gurley did here, but they did it on that side. But but it's a vacation spot.
Okay.
So the Obamas go every summer.
Oh, wow.
They had, when we were there, they had Black Film Festival. So almost anybody, Barbara Johnson. If you are wealthy and black, that's where they vacation on the East Coast, and it's pretty pricey, but we had a blast, and it's just so beautiful. They have these little homes that are like little cottages, and there are all these weird colors, but it's a lot of fun. It's beautiful. And I was just remember seeing Inkwell as a college person, I believe, and then and when I went, I was like, oh, because this is what's funny. We've all been so many places. And before we leave next Tuesday, we will know, not Tuesday coming, the following Tuesday, we'll know where we're going next year, because we set the date. We decide where we're going before we leave.
The closest thing I've been to that is the National Brotherhood of Skiers. They have some amazing events.
I've heard about that.
But I want to say that's what it's like to talk to and listen to you, Regina. Mm-hmm. I want to tell you how much I appreciate you for being our guest. I want to tell you how much I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to get to know you better. And before we leave, do you have any inspirational thing that you want to say to people that feel like the worst thing to happen to them, and remind them that the worst thing that happened to them is not their future? No. Do you have anything you want to close with?
I would say just what you said. We are the sum of several things. Wife, mother, friend, whatever. But if we're still here and we are still breathing, that means we have something yet to do. And so keep fighting. Wayman had this thing that said, you move until the wheels fall off. As long as you have breath in your body, keep moving. Keep moving.
And he certainly did. And you should too. I want for you to tell your friends to tell a friend to tell a friend to watch this podcast. They will certainly be inspired. And all the other podcasts that we have, because we have unique stories of people that have overcome amazing things. And I hope you'll agree with me that Regina is amazing. Thank you. And tune in for the next episode of Kevin Matthews and Second Chance Superstar. Have a good day. Thank you for watching this episode. To see episodes early, subscribe to my Patreon with the link below. You also get bonus content. You get to decide who I talk to or what I talk about. And after every episode, I get on there and talk about what we learned from each episode. So join our Patreon today, and I want you to be part of my Second Chance Redemption Circle, a movement of second chances, power, and purpose.